Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. It's Tuesday, December 15th, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. I'm Kim A-lim. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. Joe Biden has formally been selected as the next U.S. president after securing the required 270 Electoral College votes, despite opposition from Donald Trump and his supporters. It's V-Day in the United States as the biggest vaccination campaign in the country's history began on Monday with the rollout of Pfizer and BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine. The first to receive the vaccine was an intensive care nurse in New York. South Korea continues to see a surge in COVID-19 cases with 880 more patients confirmed on Tuesday. This comes amid rising cluster infections, including one from a senior care facility in Kimje, Jeolla-do province. We begin with the COVID-19 situation here in South Korea. The country reported 880 new cases Tuesday, continuing its general uptrend. This comes as cluster infections continue across the nation, especially in places where people are in close daily contact. One of the latest clusters is from a senior nursing facility in Kimje, Jeolla-do province, where at least 60 people have been infected. Of the new cases, 848 were locally transmitted, most in the greater capital area. 32 were from overseas. There have been a whopping 13 more deaths, bringing the death toll to 600. As South Korea continues to see record-breaking numbers of new COVID-19 cases, calls to implement the highest social distancing level are growing louder by the day. It's also coming from small business owners and the self-employed, despite the potential economic pitfalls they'll have to face as a result. Our Miyoung reports.
Due to the recent flare-up in COVID-19 cases, owners of small businesses and self-employed people in South Korea are demanding stronger antivirus measures, urging the authorities to raise the current level to level 3, the highest under the government's 5-tier system. Even those who used to strongly oppose strict distancing measures are now seeing the urgent need to contain the virus, despite the dire economic impact it'll have on their bottom line. This comes as many have already reached breaking point, leaving them with no other choice but to hope the pandemic ends as soon as possible. Restaurant owners are among those hardest hit financially. Yet some hang on to hope that tougher distancing measures will curb the spread.
I worry when customers come to eat. If level 3 is imposed, it will be the end for all of us. But I still hope the level will be raised soon to end the pandemic.
If and when level 3 is implemented, the time frame will also be crucial.
Since we have no income coming in, I agree with raising the level for a short period of time. But I'm also concerned as we don't know how long they will last.
Under level 3, multi-use facilities in South Korea will have to close with the exception of those deemed essential, such as hospitals and stores. It would mean more than 500,000 facilities shutting down nationwide. Miyoung, Arirang News.
The United States began its biggest vaccination campaign on Monday as a nurse in New York received the first shot of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. The U.S. hopes vaccines will be available to the general public by early next year. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
It's V-Day in the United States as the biggest vaccination campaign in the country's history began on Monday with the rollout of Pfizer and BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine. The first to receive the vaccine was an intensive care unit nurse in New York.
It was an emotional experience working on the front lines alongside my team. I saw a lot of pain, hurt, suffering, death, and so I felt a huge sense of relief after I got the vaccine. I was not nervous. As I've mentioned before, I trust the science, so I had no hesitation when I was asked if I would take the vaccine. I've been waiting for this day for forever.
Lindsay, who has treated some of the sickest COVID-19 patients for months, stressed that despite the rollout, it's important to keep wearing face masks. Marking the start of the vaccination program, President Trump took to Twitter to congratulate not just the United States, but the world. Prior to the start of the vaccination program, President Trump reversed a White House directive to vaccinate top government officials while limiting the public distribution of the vaccines to frontline health workers and people in nursing homes and long-term care facilities. He added that people working in the White House should receive the vaccine somewhat later in the program, unless specifically necessary. According to Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar on Monday, COVID-19 vaccines could be available to the general public by late February or early March. Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla announced that the company is currently in negotiation with the U.S. government to provide an additional 100 million doses next year. The American drug maker already has a deal with the U.S. government to supply 100 million doses as part of Operation Warp Speed. 이승재, Arirang News.
Canada also began its mass vaccination campaign on Monday as first shots of Pfizer and BioNTech's vaccines were administered in Ontario and Quebec, with frontline healthcare staff and residents of long-term care homes receiving the first batch of vaccines. An 89-year-old woman received Quebec's first vaccine. The first in Ontario went to a personal support worker. 14 sites across 10 provinces will be receiving Canada's first 30,000 doses, with another 30,000 expected to arrive next week. Canada hopes to vaccinate 2 million people by the first quarter of 2021. The COVID-19 continues to spread around the world, with the U.S. seeing 1,300 more fatalities on Sunday, pushing the total to over 300,000. With the virus also spreading fast in London, the British government has issued the highest tier of COVID-19 restrictions for the city. Our Kim Hyo-san has more.
As the world continues to grapple with novel coronavirus, the U.S. accumulated death toll from the virus has climbed to roughly 300,000. This comes as over 1,300 deaths were reported on Sunday alone. According to a Wall Street Journal analysis of Johns Hopkins data, it took the country roughly 4 months to reach 200,000 deaths in September from 100,000. But it took less than 3 months to reach about 300,000 deaths. On Sunday, the country's daily tally of new cases stood at some 190,000, raising the total to over 16.2 million. State governors are beefing up quarantine once again as the continued surge in cases is leading to a shortage of hospital beds, especially for critically ill patients. Over the Atlantic, the UK government said Monday that the City of London will face toughened COVID-19 restrictions, which will be imposed from Wednesday.
This means that people can only see friends and family they don't live with or are in a support bubble with in outdoor public places and, of course, in line with the rule of 6. Hospitality settings must close except takeaway and delivery, and people should avoid travelling outside their area and reduce the number of journeys they make wherever possible.
In Israel, the COVID-19 death toll surpassed 3,000 on Sunday. The country's prime minister has also reportedly entered into quarantine until Friday after coming into contact with a COVID-19 patient. This is the third time Benjamin Netanyahu has been forced into quarantine since the beginning of the pandemic. Kim A-lim, Arirang News.
The U.S. Electoral College has affirmed President-elect Joe Biden's victory, giving him more than the 270 votes needed to win. It cements the results of last month's election and perhaps puts an end to President Trump's refusal to concede. Our Miyoung has the latest.
U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has secured more than the majority of electoral votes needed to officially declare his victory. All 538 members of the Electoral College gathered at their respective capitals across the country on Monday. They cast ballots for president, reflecting the popular vote from the November 3rd election. The candidates need at least 270 votes to win. And the state of California helped put Biden above the threshold, affirming his victory.
I will now announce the tally of the vote for the office of President of the United States. For Joseph R. Biden of Delaware, a Democrat, ayes 55, noes 0.
Monday's outcome follows the result of last month's election, in which Biden received 7 million more votes nationwide than Trump. Crucially, they gave Biden a projected 306 Electoral College votes. The Electoral College voting is normally just a formality. But there's extra focus this year as President Trump continues to challenge the outcome. Observers believe that Monday's results could effectively end President Trump's baseless claims over election fraud and his legal attempts to overturn the election results. The next big date will be January 6, when the votes will be sent to Washington for Congress to count. Miyoung, Arirang News.
A 25-year-old South Korean golfer who has never played professionally in America before has achieved a feat few would have considered possible a few days ago. Kim A-lim put in the performance of a lifetime to win one of the most prestigious golf tournaments in the world, the U.S. Women's Open. Our Kim Bo-kyung reports.
I'm extremely honored and cannot believe I actually won. This is what South Korean golfer Kim A-lim had to say after she won the 75th U.S. Women's Open on Monday at the Champions Golf Club in Houston. The 25-year-old, who has never won outside South Korea, made a life-changing debut in one of the biggest events in women's golf, taking a commanding lead with 3 consecutive birdies in the home stretch. Kim shot a 4-under par 67 in the final round and shot a 4-round total of 3 under 281, securing her the trophy and the $1 million winner's check. Her victory was all the more surprising as she was 5 shots behind when the final round started. Her rally to the top of the pile ties the record for the best ever comeback in women's golf. Kim becomes the 10th South Korean player to win the U.S. Women's Open, but it's the 11th time for a South Korean player to win as Park In-bi took the trophy home twice. This year is also the second consecutive year for a South Korean golfer to win as Lee Jeong-eun was victorious last year. Second place also went to a South Korean, world number 1 Ko Jin-young, who was tied with American Amy Olsen. Asked how she would like to celebrate her victory, Kim A-lim said she would eat some delicious food and share the stories of her trip in U.S. with her family in South Korea. She added that she's grateful to be able to play as the world endures the pandemic, and she hoped her win would give energy and encouragement to others. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Good morning. The most frigid cold snap of the season so far has gripped most of Korea. It's even colder today than it was yesterday. Cold wave advisories have been upgraded to warnings for most of central parts of the country, and it feels colder with those icy winds. Meanwhile, heavy snow alerts remain in effect for Jeolla-do, Jeju, Ulleungdo and Dokdo today. So far, the eastern islets of Ulleungdo have received nearly 32 centimeters of snowfall since yesterday, while mountainous regions on Jeju saw 20 centimeters with a heavy snow warning in place there. More heavy snow, though, will fall through Thursday morning, while the west coast near Jeolla-do provinces will see 15 centimeters more snowfall through tomorrow. Be extra careful on the roads and sidewalks, please, because daily highs in snow-affected regions will remain icy cold all day. Gwangju at 0 degrees Celsius this afternoon, while Seoul will only make it to -4 degrees this afternoon. And this intense cold snap will stay with us through Thursday, so please stay warm. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that's a wrap for us at the hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
It's the season of year-end gatherings. But with the pandemic raging on, what's more important this year is to stop rampant infections. The surest way to prevent COVID-19 infection is to minimize physical contact with others and practice social distancing.